Good morning. Today is my soul dog who passed her birthday. This is her. That's Dani. She passed in June last year, so today I thought I'd bring her into the reading with me and with us and just honor her life, and was thinking that this reading could be sort of like for anyone who's lost a loved one, if you want to include their names in the comments and have that be part of this energy in this space, you're welcome to do that. So before I get started, I'm gonna light a candle for all of our loved ones that we've lost. And I'm going to invite Dani into the reading and see what kind of messages we get and what she wants to have come through. So let's start with an angel card. Angel card. A couple of you have said that you have this deck, and I love that. I used to work for a woman who was an energy reader, and she did readings for people and animals. She started off in vet medicine, actually, and then changed to be an energy healer and started seeing patients like that way. And in her office, she always had these cards, and we would both pull one every morning. And she has actually passed as well since that time, which is interesting. Maybe that's just her coming into this reading as well. But so I carried on this angel card ritual in her honor, and because it was just such a meaningful experience for me. Okay, beauty. Whew. Well, it's gonna be maybe a little bit emotional, but it's okay. As you can see, I've put curtains up in my new place. That's the first time I've ever put curtains up in my life, and I absolutely love it. And it like, it's just it's so important, I think, to bring beauty into this space. In any space that you live in, just to make a really intentional place of rest, of sanctuary, and all the things. It's like when I'm decorating, I'm kind of like, is that right? Is that right? And then it's like, you have to think of it as like, do I love it? Does it feel good to me? And if that's true, then do it. It doesn't have to be necessarily like a magazine look, but yeah, it just felt really good to put these curtains up and just have this like elegance in the room. And after I did that, the light kind of came in and filtered in this really beautiful way. And then I actually, like, it's those moments where I'm like, ugh, I wish she was here to see the curtains, But I know she is here. It's just, this is the first place I've ever lived without her, like, in my adult life. Okay. Dani, let's check out an angel or a Nature's Whispers card and see. We do have collectively a pretty intense transit happening. as you can see in the world, it's just a lot of, like, Mars is going into Aries. Mars is the it's just a very intense transit. That's all I'll say. But with saying that, it's also now the, I believe, final planet to enter Aries, which now makes 8 or 9 planets in Aries. And the thing about it is that, yes, is a lot of fire, that's a lot of intensity, but Aries is the beginning point of the zodiac. And all these planets are now in the beginning points. So why 2025 was such a loss year, besides it being a 9 year and this year being a 1, was because so many of the planets were going through the end of Pisces, Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, Pisces being where you take everything you've learned throughout the whole journey and it kind of culminates into this last releasing. You know, a lot of animals I know did pass in 2025, and people. It was one of those types of years, of those cycles. And so now Mars going into Aries being the last sort of step into the beginning point of this new zodiac chapter. And I think that's really exciting. I feel it. I obviously have a huge change that's happened in my life personally. I would be absolutely shocked if you didn't have some type of significant change happening for you recently or currently, or you're about to. Like, what I can definitely say is that if this time is calling you forward to something that you've been wanting, but you haven't had the courage to do yet, or you haven't felt ready, this is going to start being the time where you will be ready, that you're wanting that action, that it no longer feels like, you know, kind of sitting in this unclear, you know, Pisces is very just like, can feel confusing, can feel like you're just like floating around in this like float tank where nothing feels real. And now that should start clearing, or has cleared. And so I wanted to mention that because I think it ties into, you know, the loss that we've experienced and the just huge changeover of sort of like those souls were on their mission for that chapter. And that is such a beautiful way to think of, you know, they did what they were here for. They did it, and we got to be part of that. So let's pull a card. Like, I'm not just crying because it's not just sadness, it's just love. Here comes Stormy, my other dog. Hey. She's like, what's happening in this room? She's a good girl. All right. Fresh approach. Yep. New beginning, new start. Card number 21. Okay. I'm doing relatively well because I could just cry a lot more, but you know, it's always helpful to hold back sometimes while you're doing a video for the internet. That's helpful. All right, let's read the correct card this week. Fresh approach. Time to step out of the box and an old way of doing things. You are being challenged to try something new. Look at how to create magic in your world. Create with the intention of filling your life with joy and happiness. Achieve your desires while experimenting with new activities. You always have options. Don't feel limited. Even when you aren't in motion, you are making a choice. You are being prodded to make a decision now. Don't worry about not making the right one. Every mistake brings us lessons and opportunities. The amount you can learn is immeasurable. Base your choice on love and the best option for you. Imagine that failing is not part of any of your choices. What will you choose? Yeah, like I said, just with that card, now is the time. You know, you're so often it's like, we're still going through, we're still releasing, we're still shedding, but okay, well, when is it time? When is it time? And that may not be like, for you, it could not maybe feel as huge as, you know, I just moved my whole life from one apartment to another. But that is such a like concrete example of that kind of shift of energy. And I think what's hard about making steps into new choices is that it makes, you know, you have to keep accepting the forward motion. Like, you have to keep grieving and releasing and allowing the emotion to come through, which I do. I don't hold back when I'm by myself, but I am holding back now because I want to share a message. I don't want to just like blah, cry all over, you know, the video. But I think why a lot of times people stay stuck for so long in this place of not feeling yet ready to move forward is because they're not willing to feel the loss and feel the grief in order to allow it to be released and accepted. You know, that ended. That's not part of what's going forward. And until you can bridge that, until you can make that energy, until you can make that energy transform into, okay, now I'm ready to accept and move forward. You know, it's hard to sort of make those choices and make those decisions that need to be made to help the next part begin. So I'm not suggesting to rush any of that either. Every process takes its time. And I always say, like, it just takes the time that it takes. You heal and you feel better, and then all of a sudden, you know, it can hit you and you might think, I thought I already processed this. I thought I already, you know, grieved this. But that's not how grief works. That's not how healing works. You need to be able to just allow in whatever is fresh and alive at that moment, and trust that if you just feel that largeness of emotion, that it almost like calms. It calms, and then you go, okay, now I'm ready to do one thing that can help me step forward. So that's the place that we're in this week. That's the place that we've been sort of in the bigger picture of things, with all the planets going from Pisces into Aries. And I also wanted to say that they have, you know, they being people who talk about astrology and energy and things like that, a lot of people will talk about this being a 1 year. But I heard a woman, and I wish I knew who she was. You know how you just kind of like see something on the internet and register it, but I can't remember who it was. And she said, this is a 1 year, but it's also a 10 year. And it's important to note that, because 1 is you doing it alone, and 10 is you co-creating with divine source, with, you know, the spirit of all the support of all the loved ones around you and in the other realms. And, you know, the 1 is the beginning, the new, the you generating the experiences, but thinking of it as a co-creative year, I think is really reassuring and really helpful to think that you're not alone. You're not doing any of this alone. Any choices that you're making, you are being supported, you're being seen and held and divinely guided forward. And to trust that more than anything, you can't make the wrong decision. Just like that card said, you know, you just put feelers out, If you have an interest or something that you think like could be, I don't know, a path forward, it's always better, I think, to just test things. Okay, universe, where do you want me? What, you know, just let yourself put out feelers. And I promise you that you're going to get messages back, whether that's like, yes, this is the way forward, or no, not that way, no, not that way, no, not that way. But at least you've kind of begun the process of saying, okay, maybe this will interest me. Maybe this is the way forward. Maybe this is the new direction. And not to do it like in a frantic, like, I can't figure it out, I don't know what I'm doing, but just any like nudge right now that is stepping in and speaking to you, or has been in the back of your mind, I think right now is the perfect time to just try and go for it and see how it feels, because you're so supported right now, universally and divinely. And you know, to just know that is, there's no better time than right now, when all these planets are in Aries, to begin taking action and moving forward and seeing what's out there for you. And, you know, knowing that you're doing it with all of the loved ones that have passed, you're doing it with the spirits and souls that are part of your life path and may not be here in their physical bodies, but are still here, are still witnessing, are still guiding. Like it took about 9 months of grieving Dani dying before I started feeling that connection with her. Like now I'm starting to actually feel her and feel her guidance and feel like that connection that we had in her body is still here. It transformed. But you can't feel that until you take the time to really just grieve the version that it was. And so I hope all of that was helpful in any way. If any of you are currently in a grief process or have been in a grief process, just know that like I totally get it and I am right there with you. It is so hard and so beautiful and meaningful at the same time to just love so much, and to have experienced that love in this life and know that that's not the end of it. You know, there's going to be always new love that comes in, and the love that was once in that form is still here. And I know people always say that, and it can kind of get, when you're grieving, it can kind of feel like, I know she's still with me. Like, You know, people will say that, and it's like, but that's not, it doesn't feel true until it does, you know, and so I understand why people say it, because it is true. You can't feel it until you feel it. It doesn't make sense, or doesn't ring true when you're deep in grief and when everything's hurting and somebody says, you know, you haven't lost her, she's still with you. And it's like, well, no, I have. Like, I have. And I understand that it will change, and it will be something new and different, and we'll still have that connection. But at that time, it can be actually kind of painful when, you know, people will say those types of things. So I don't mean to say it in a way that makes that feeling happen for you. But there will come a point, most likely, where you feel, oh, I kind of understand now what people were saying when they were talking about that she's still here with me. Because now, 9 months, almost 10 months later, is when I've started picking up again that like thread of connection that we had. And okay, so before I go, just want to pull a card that says what I'm letting go of. Now that Mars has moved into Aries, that final planet move into the new beginnings, what's the last piece, Dani, I'm asking you to let go of? Dani pulling this card, knowing her. Okay. I let go of sluggishness. So take that for whatever it's worth in your own life, and I'll apply it to mine. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you guys next week on Thursday. Bye. Bye from Dani.